Holy smokes, we've missed a lot. Sorry I haven't posted on this channel in a few days. I'm on vacation. For those that maybe missed it, I talked a little bit about it on some of the other channels. I'm in Hawaii with my family for a few more days, and it's been a little bit difficult to put out some content, but I'm doing my absolute best. And so for those that need a summary of what's going on in Canada, Canada ran an ad in a misrepresented ad, an old video that was taken out of context from Ronald Reagan, basically saying that tariffs are bad for America. A Ontario premier ran that ad in the States. Trump got angry and said, that's it, no more trade talks. And then because Canada continued to run the ad during the World Series, Trump said, you know what, 10% tariffs, and didn't specify on what. So Canada right now is not in a good position for any negotiations with America, specifically with President Trump. So what's Canada doing? Because it's not looking good. Well, Canada is running to Asia, saying, you know what, we're just going to abandon America trade talks because we can't seem to figure it out, even though every other country has been able to figure it out. The only country that is not able to figure out trade talks with America is Canada. China is able to figure it out. Japan, European Union, Mexico, every country in the world can figure out trade talks with America, except the friendliest neighbors, the snow Mexicans, the Canadian people that say sorry and it's a boot, not a boat, but a boot. We can't seem to figure it out. So Canada is desperately going to Asia for, additional trade talks, relying less on America. And of course, that makes sense. Why would you want to trade with your neighbors that you share a land border with instead when you can go to the other side of the world and trade with Asia? So we're taking a look at that and just how nonsensical it actually is, because Carney is promising, get this, not a few billion, not a few $100 billion, $1 trillion of Asian investments into Canada. I mean, that would make not just Vancouver, Hongkouver, but it would make the rest of Canada very much Asian, which we don't really want. We want it to remain Canadian. But anyways, we're taking a look at this. So all I ask is for you guys to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, because this is going to be pretty freaking funny. Without further ado, let's get right into it.
We are going to double our non-U.S. exports over the course of the next 10 years. We think we can do it in a much shorter period of time. That's $300 billion of additional exports. Most of that is going to come from Asia, in our view, and I'll justify that in a second. But on top of this, and I just underscore this because this is a two-way relationship, our expectation coming out of the budget is that we're laying out a path for at least $500 billion of additional investment in Canada in the next 5 years. Additional, not total, additional. And that's U.S. So these are orders of magnitude that start to be relevant. Areas, both in terms of the two-way trade and the domestic investment. We're basically going to build out the infrastructure to help drive energy corridors, both clean and conventional, trade corridors, new port infrastructure, and others. But from LNG, where we're putting ourselves on a path to at least 50 million tons by the end of this decade, but double that by 2040, potentially more. It's easily done when you have the fourth largest reserves of LNG in the world, and you have demand here for the energy transition. Indonesia free trade agreement was done quite quickly. We pushed it over when we came into government. We've just announced that intention to finish the ASEAN free trade agreement, which has been carefully negotiated for 4 years, which is going to be completed next year. But a similar timeline for a free trade agreement with the Philippines. And then we are working, as I alluded to those of you who came to the fireside chat, on a much more ambitious docking of CPTPP to the EU, which Canada can do, because we're in both, and therefore we're an honest broker across both. But that just gives you a sense of where we are. I want to finish. You want me to finish, and I will finish. I want to finish back in on the reliable partner and values, because, as I said on the stage, you need a partner who respects the letter of agreements. We are that partner, but also the spirit of agreements and the values underneath those agreements. And we do believe in rules-based law. We believe in the values of sustainability, inclusivity, solidarity, partnership. But I am going to quote, and I tested our ambassador to ASEAN earlier, and she's going to sing along. the words from the ASEAN anthem, which I know you all know, but just in case I didn't actually this morning. But two of the key lines that stuck with me is that in ASEAN, we dare to dream and we care to share. And so Canada dares to dream big. We have laid out, we're laying out $1 trillion of investment opportunities over the course of the next decade, U.S. And we dare to care. Sustainability, inclusivity, and in partnership, the ASEAN anthem, everyone after me. Later on, after this reception, there'll be a short karaoke where we'll have a chance to sing it together. But thank you for being here, and we look forward to the partnership and to showing up.
Canadians want to know and deserve to know how much money has actually already been poured into the country. How much money does Canada have in its hands, in its bank accounts, that has been brought in from investments from other countries outside of the United States since Mark Carney became prime minister and began all of these trade talks and negotiations with other countries? That's a bit of a tongue twister to repeat, but it's not a big ask from our own leadership in the country. And now we've got to take a look at the criticism that Mark Carney is getting for all of these trade talks.
Ending today at the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit in Malaysia, looking to drum up investment into Canada. Earlier this week, Carney said Ottawa has a goal of doubling exports to markets outside the U.S. in the next decade as Canada looks to diversify its markets. U.S. President Donald Trump is also set to attend the summit. The Prime Minister's office has said there is no meeting set between Trump and Carney. With me now is Peter MacKay, former Foreign Affairs Minister. Thank you very much, sir, for being here. Now, we do know Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister was in Asia trying to lay the groundwork for a meeting between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Mark Carney. How significant could a meeting between these two leaders be?
Well, I think it would be significant, Renee, and I think that both the work of the Foreign Affairs Minister and the Prime Minister is very much in keeping with this plan to diversify trade and to move away from an over-reliance on the American market. But that is going to take time. And let's be clear, we are never going to completely decouple or, in fact, at any time in the near future, replace the amount of trade that we do with the United States of America. So I think we need to take a little bit of an appetizer suppressant or sort of level out the expectation that we're going to somehow completely break away from the Americans and replace that with other marketplace.
Now, here's where I have differing views, right? I think, by the way, Peter MacKay, if I'm not mistaken, was a conservative, right? The former Foreign Affairs Minister. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. Now, my view of America is we should not be looking to move off of American dependence. We should be looking to incorporate more American trade talks. I don't want to say more American dependence, but we should be looking to strengthen our ties with America because there's a real shift in the world right now. And the danger is not America. It's places like China that are buying up gold in the masses to try to destabilize the American dollar. That's what BRICS wants to do. It's almost like BRICS versus NATO, the good versus the bad. And those sides are depending on essentially who you're cheering for. Now, I'm on the team of good. I view America as good and NATO allies as good because, well, the opposite is being under, the Chinese Communist Party, being under some form of Sharia law. And that's not what I want. That's not a world that I want to live in. I like Western culture. I like Western dominance. I like America dominating the world. I like America being the world police. I like America dollar being the world currency. That's the view that I have in the world that I want to live in. And right now there's a tug of war between the American dollar and other currencies, right? Other countries always are going to want to destabilize America. And if America does get destabilized, then America is going to try to destabilize whoever else is in charge. But we don't want to get to that point. So Canada shifting off of American dependence to go and trade with other countries. Look, when push comes to shove, our best friends, the people that we're going to fight with in war, is not going to be China. We're going to be fighting with China. Eventually, it may come to a point where Canada has to fight against China or other countries. We're not going to be fighting against America. We're always, hopefully, going to be on very good terms with America. And I think that we should be incorporating more of American products, American culture, American, companies, American military bases into Canada land. That's how I view it. I could be wrong. It could be a differing opinion from what you have, but that's just what I want because I love America. I love Canada. We've always had very interchangeable ways of life. I mean, you drive from the border in Canada into America and it's not really that different. It drops from kilometers to miles per hour. Okay, yeah, the money's a little bit different, but it's all the same thing, right? Like we're all kind of similar. Way different when you look at, America and Canada versus China. Okay. So this whole thing of we need to shift off of American dependence, I don't like it. I personally don't like it. I hate it, in fact.
What can realistically be accomplished at these summits?
Well, personal relationships matter. And I think what we have seen is a complacency. We, Canada, have already signed free trade agreements with over 40 countries. In fact, the Harper government set a record pace for signing new agreements with the European Union, with the Asia Pacific. There are other markets that we should be aggressively pursuing. The United Kingdom comes to mind. And so the expectation is do both. Do the work to get new market share, but also, of course, shore things up on the home front. And I think that's where this balance may be a little bit out of whack right now, where Prime Minister Carney is overseas, but there's a bit of a turmoil and an emergency here at home, including what premiers are doing, going wildly off in all directions and provoking the type of very catastrophic reaction we saw from President Trump this week.
Yes, that is certainly very true. So where would you advise Carney to go from here? How important is it to bring all of the premiers together to have one united front when it comes to trade talks?
Well, he's got a lot of moving parts here. I think the fact that he's in Malaysia right now at the ASEAN meeting and President Trump will be there, he should make that his priority, is to try to get some FaceTime with the president and maybe talk him a little bit off the cliff. As far as circling the wagons here at home and trying to get our premiers once again pulling in the same direction, I think that's important. I mean, rumors are swirling that Premier Eby in BC is now thinking of running a similar type of ad campaign. It looks good. It's great domestic, local politics to, give the appearance that you're standing up to this evil tyrant. But, as we've seen, this has national consequences. Sector by sector fallout is happening now as a result of breaking off the trade agreements and leaving these tariffs.
You have provincial leaders that are interfering with federal jurisdiction and federal trade. It's almost a crime. If it isn't actually deemed one, it almost is and or should be. It's disgusting that you have a singular provincial leader like Doug Ford and now David Eby that are literally sabotaging, trade talks with America, not for their own respective provinces, but for an entire country. They are not the country leader. It's disgusting that they're doing that. Not that I trust Mark Carney to do a better job, but for these provinces to be sabotaging trade talks on their own for an entire nation using government money is insane to me. It should be deemed criminal and I don't know, a form of treason. I don't know, but I don't like it.
Place. And so, I think, frankly, the priority is right here, minding the fences at home and trying to get this trade talk back on track.
What are the chances that Carney and Trump will have a sit down?
Well, a sit down is one thing, and that is usually something that is requested well in advance, just as some of these talks, the communique is already written. But there is the chance, and I've been to many of these foreign meetings, you have the spontaneity to go up and say, look, I would really like 5 minutes of your time. There's a lot at stake for both of our countries. There's nothing prohibiting the Prime Minister from doing that. And so I suspect strongly that he will attempt to do so, or even have intermediaries set this up.
We can only hope that is going to be the case, but I personally don't know how Mark Carney is going to start to fix the damage that he's already done. Like, it is pretty nasty. Imagine how angry Canadians would be, and to be honest, rightfully so, if Donald Trump was spending American tax dollars on doing 51st state ads in Canada. So you turn on the television, you're watching the hockey game, you're watching the World Series, and all of a sudden now you start to see videos of American military flying over Toronto and Vancouver and Montreal, and all the Canadian flags turning into American flags. And, you know, Parliament now turns into an extension of the Oval Office or the White House. Like, imagine how Canadians would feel. Personally, I don't have a problem with that. I think it'd be pretty freaking funny. But all the liberal Canadians, all the Canadians that are like, no, we got to fight for our sovereignty, they'd be pretty pissed about that. And our leaders would be rightfully pissed. I mean, Mark Carney wouldn't laugh it off. He'd be like, oh, well, that's not okay. You can't just joke about something like that. And I know it's a little different because it's taking out of context something that a previous president said about tariffs and stuff like that. And it's not AI generated, you know, just we're going to take your land, like what I just kind of hypothesized on. But again, you know, even though it is an apples to oranges comparison, just imagine the repercussions that would come from something like that. It would probably not sit too well with a lot of Canadians, just as what Canada didn't sit too well with a lot of Americans. And it pissed off the most important one, the president of the freaking United States. So there you have it. I don't know how Mark Carney's going to wiggle himself out of this one, or maybe Trump is just, you know, pretending to be outraged, and him and Mark Carney are going to laugh and have a beer and talk about trade deals and stuff like that. I don't know. Who knows what's going to come of this? But what I do know is that you're not going to want to miss a single update. So all I ask, it's free, by the way, is for you guys to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, so that when we do have the final news on what took place over in Asia between Carney and Trump and, you know, a trade deal with Canada, you're not going to want to miss it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in another one. Bye for now.